Okay, here we go. This week's Sedra. This week's Sedra actually really started last week. Because when the wicked Balak and Bilam, who the Kabbalists say are connected to Satan and connected to our spiritual Yetzer Hara, so you have to think of the Balak and the Bilam in us, which is the state of confusion in us. So it tries to kill the Jewish people through the curse. That doesn't work. So then it works out what always gets us. What is it that the politicians always, even Boris Johnson, always the downfall? It's always to do with sex. In the end, that's always what and actually from a Kabbalistic reason, one of the reasons that is because when Jacob and Esau, when the angel of Esau fought, he injured Jacob in that area because he understood that was a very weak point, specifically for men. And once again, Bilam and Balak tried everything else. So they said, if that doesn't work, let's get them the other way, which is the same way as Achashverosh and Haman tried to get us through being, trying to marry the Moabites and the Midianites. And they essentially, imagine, thank God it's not as bad as this, but it's getting this bad. This is what they did. They set up the most beautiful shopping center, the most wonderful stores. Maybe Sivan, don't say this part to your kids, because Sivan says the story to their kids. They set up the most beautiful stalls and shopping centers, and they said, come and buy these wonderful goods. And all these most beautiful women were at the front trying to sell. So far it's the same as today. But then they would say, come on inside the tent. If you really want to buy this, you can. And we have the most amazing idol here. But if you want the idol, you have to have me and the idol. We go together. And they were seducing all the Jewish men who fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And there was one of the leaders of the Jewish people who called Zimri, who was seduced by one of the leading Moabites called Cosby, and they got together and terrible plague happened to the Jewish people and thousands started dying, and Pinchas went. And I'll tell you how most people interpret the story, and by the end you'll see that's not what happened. But this is the misperception. Pinchas saw what was going on, got so angry, was so reviled by all the terrible sins going on in the Jewish world, couldn't believe the audacity of Zimri, who went and put it in Moses' face and said, look, Moses, you married out, so what's wrong with me marrying out? Who do you think you are? And Pinchas was so upset, he took a spear and he speared them both to death and killed them both. Again, Sivan, you might, not sure if you want to tell your kids that part. And he speared them both to death, and he put the spear in both of them at the same time. The male and female were both killed through the spear, which in Hebrew is called the romach, which we're going to speak about near the end. And he picked up this romach, he picked up this spear, and he paraded it in front of everyone. Look what happens when you mess with the Jewish people. They died, the plague ended, the Chilul Hashem was over, and we lived to fight another day. That's how most people interpret the story. The problem is that Pinchas was someone who came from Aaron. It says Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen twice. Aaron was a man of peace. And the reward in the Torah for what Pinchas did was peace. So from seemingly an act of zealousness and anger, why is he rewarded with peace? So for this, what the mystics talk about this week, what the energy of the week is about, which I am totally convinced is to do with the climate and the crazy weather conditions around the world right now. It's to do with anger, it's to do with heat, it's to do with fire. Don't know if you've seen the pictures, London's on fire tonight. There's terrible fire all over the place. There's fire engines rushing around the M25, there's terrible fires. Fire is always connected to Gehenna. It's connected to hell. It's connected to anger, as we learned last week. When the great Rabbi who's with the Orach Chaim HaKadosh got angry, he realized that the wicked people went through to hell, because that's why it says don't get especially angry on Shabbat, because that's what lights the fires of Gehenna, which we're going to speak about. So it seems that if Pinchas got angry, then it's permitted to get angry. Is it not permitted to get angry? So let's discuss about anger. Let's discuss the relevance of anger. And I hope we're going to change your life tonight, because my friends, anger is never allowed. Pinchas didn't get angry, just to cut a long story short, just in case you're wondering. God forbid, chas v'sholom, Pinchas is anything but angry. And we have no permission to get angry. Any of you on Instagram who are getting angry in this heat, Hashem is literally having a laugh, because I was like, okay, we're going to learn about anger this week. And I was like, oh, Baruch Hashem, I'm working on these strategies. Me get angry, moi, and Hashem makes it 40 degrees hot and everything's stressful. Even had to get this little book, and I had to, just before the class and the Zoom, it's like, oh my gosh, it's upstairs. And just like to walk upstairs in this sauna is like, are you joking? Okay, you're tempting me, Hashem, you're tempting me. I'm not going to get angry. No way, I'm calm. Breathe slowly. So everybody breathe slowly. Everybody ready to breathe slowly? Ready? Breathe in and out. That's already a start. That helps with the whole anger shtick. And we're going to teach you tonight about what anger is according to Kabbalah, how to manage it. Actually, not how to. I don't need to manage anger. I want you to eradicate anger. I want you to wage war against anger. I want you to erode it from your life in totality. It's like chametz on Pesach. Hopefully there's been no bread on Passover in your homes on Pesach. I don't want anger in your homes, in your heart, in your mind. There's never a time for anger, as we're going to see tonight. We start off with Maimonides. James, I don't know if you're ready to start putting the links on. So we start off with the Rambam, Maimonides, the Laws of Deot, chapter 2, law number 3. So Hilchot Deot, you can look it up in Sparia. James is going to put the links, because he is so awesome, is my James. And Refuah Shalem, James, he's not feeling that we're a bit under the weather. Like, I'm definitely under the weather, but just a different type of under the weather. But James is not feeling well, just feel Refuah Shalem. He's going to put the link on of Maimonides, Laws of Deot, chapter 2. Maimonides famously says the most amazing thing, everybody. Maimonides talks about character traits. And generally, he believes in the median principle, the principle of balance. Maimonides is all about balance. And generally, he says, when it comes, for example, to giving charity, Sivan, close your ears, because I don't want Sivan to hear this. But most people who give charity, he wants them to be balanced in their charity giving. He wants them not to be like excessive in their charity, but also, God forbid, not miserly. To find the middle road, the derech hayasha, he calls it. In other words, on one level is the kamtsan, the miser, who's as tight as anything. You can't get any money out of them. And the other extreme are just the chesed, gone wrong people. They just don't know how to say no. They're just giving out money right, left, and center. Even though I have to give a caveat to it, I just came back from the Shiva house of my wife's uncle, who was called Bernard Perrin. He's Neshama Haven Aliyah. And it's amazing how you've got so many hidden tzaddikim in this world. This is a tzaddik who was actually close to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and his son said at his funeral, most people give 10%. Maimonides talks about giving 10%. So Uncle Bernard had a different 10% rule. His 10% rule, I keep 10% and give 90%. And he literally did that. He gave 90% of his wealth away. In fact, the family would say they had to quickly take some of his money from his pocket, because if they didn't take it, he was going to give it. Day in, day out, people came from around the world asking him for money. And he used to say, yeah, I've made some money, here it is. And he just give it out, just giving out money like confetti. And he was a tzaddik. And he was obviously, there are exceptions. So I'm not telling you shouldn't be that, but generally, Maimonides says, be the middle. So for example, in terms of introvert, extrovert, he would always say, don't be a recluse, but don't be crazy. Just follow the middle path. Most attributes have a time when you're meant to use the attributes. Says Maimonides, apart from 2. There are 2 exceptions. Can anyone guess? Both exceptions. I think one of them you're going to get. It's not that hard. What are the 2 exceptions? Anyone know? On Facebook, on Instagram, on Zoom? Obviously, anger, Julia. What's the other one? What's the other exception? So the 2 exceptions are, one is arrogance. No time for arrogance. Even though you're allowed to be pride when it comes to serving Hashem, but any pride in your ego is not allowed. Ki who's there at all. And the second one is anger. And this is what he writes. So don't need to take it from me. Take it from the man himself, the Rambam, Maimonides, the great tzaddik buried about 110 years ago in Tiberias. And he says like this: Hakas midah ra ad ma'od. It's one of the worst spiritual character traits of all, anger. He says, you've got to get to the other side of the world. You've got to run away like the plague. If you see a bit of anger coming into you, jump in a cold bath, splash water all over your face. Do something radical, quickly open up some Psalms. You're not allowed, you can't say, okay, everyone gets a bit angry. You can't say, okay, but that's what I saw my family get. But there's a time when you can be angry. Just like there's never a time when you can serve idols. Just like you should never have a time when there's idols in your tent. There should never be a time when there's anger in your home. There's fires going on all around London now because Kabbalistically there's too much anger. Too much anger. Anger is always demonstrated in fire. It comes out in fire. It comes out in hell. And he says, you've got to learn how not to get angry. And then he asks because I love the Rambam. He's not like me. He's not like some spiritual idealist, just head in the sky. The Rambam has his feet on the ground. He's a pragmatist. And the Rambam says, whoa, steady on. How are you meant to educate your kids then? How are you meant to ever discipline them, guide them? You can't be all happy, clappy the whole time. Surely not. There's the Rambam, and this is what the great mystics have done for generations. At times, you might need to pretend to be angry. You might need to fake it. God forbid, if you feel anger in your heart, that is not a permission. You're not allowed to discipline your children. I do not let you discipline your children or anyone or your spouses or your parents or your employees. If you're feeling anger in your heart, discipline yourself. Take a cold shower. Go for a walk. Go through the strategies we're going to speak about soon. And when you're calm, then you can, if you want, pretend to be angry. Rabbi Yisrael Salanta used to go, and when his kids were being naughty and he disciplined, he would go for a walk around the block, and then he would put a yellow coat on. No idea why it was a yellow coat. He would put on this yellow coat on because that would be like symbolic for him, like this is pretending. And then he would say, "Children, how dare you do that?" And he would like pretend to have an anger voice. And he would be faking anger like an actor and actress, but God forbid he would not have it in his heart. We're not allowed it in our hearts. And if we find it in our heart, God forbid, to speak, to let it out, to unleash. And by the way, parents that hit children out of anger, my gosh, that's abuse. Cyril says, what about talking with someone when you are angry? Absolutely not, Cyril. If you're feeling anger, go and take a nice lie down. Chill out. Go for a walk, relax, listen to some Louise Hay, listen to some Torah, read this book. Everyone, I want you to buy this book. James, you want to put this link on this book? It's the letter the Ramban, Nachmanides, wrote to his son, called Igeres HaRamban. Letters of the Ramban, Igeres HaRamban. It might be on Sefaria. See if you can find the link on Sefaria. Igeres HaRamban, the famous book. We're going to read it a bit later. Nachmanides wrote to his son, How to Overcome Anger. That's what you should read. Even though, to be fair, when you're angry, it's probably the last thing you're going to do. So what I do suggest, if you're feeling a bit angry, just do nothing. Distract yourself, put on some music, just go for a walk, kick a football, hit some golf balls. Just don't ever have dialogue with anyone when you're angry, God forbid, because then you could really make fires. Chas v'sholem. So then you're allowed to fake it sometimes. By the way, I used to try it with my kids, and I used to like, Yitzi, what are you doing? And he's like, Daddy, I know you. Like, yeah, right. Of course. And it didn't take me seriously, so it didn't work. But maybe because you're a better actor or actress than me, it might work. But essentially, the Rambam says, there's never an excuse. And I just now want to lay on the line and teach you why there's never an excuse. And Pinchas didn't get angry this week, and you're not allowed to get angry. And let me explain why. Number one, it says in the Talmud, Psachim, that someone who gets angry, it's tantamount to, anyone want to know what the famous comparison is? Anyone like to guess what's the famous comparison? Anger? Anyone like Larry, do you know what is anger comparison? Kitty, do you know what anger is comparison to? Idolatry. Idolatry, everybody, very good. Why is it compared to idolatry? Why is it compared to idolatry? What's the link? And it's obvious and it's tragic. when someone has road rage, when you're angry with someone, because you're worshiping yourself. You're saying, I'm in control, and how dare someone do something out of my control? Because you think you're superior, correct, Judy? You think you're greater. When someone's on the road, hey, it's my road, don't you know? Which is, by the way, Golders Green Road, where kind of all the Jews live, it's horrendous. Poor non-Jews, when they're driving up and down Golders Green Road, you're going to come see it soon, Julia. It's like everyone's private road, like it's the Jewish people. So everyone's, doing U-turns and parking in the middle of the roads and stopping in the middle of the road. I was literally there last week, and someone just like wanted to chat and have a chat to their friends in the middle of the road, and I was late. So maybe Hashem's challenging us. You're going to get angry. You're going to get angry, right? But you're not allowed to get angry, because I think part of the problem with road rage is you think it's my road. How dare you go in front of me? Someone cuts someone up. I've told many of you this quite a few times. Just very briefly, I was literally down this Golders Green Road watching a car chase someone, cut someone up. The other driver was so incensed, so angry. He's chasing him all the way down the road, like he wants to scream at him, shout at him. And then Hashem does a very funny joke, or not. He makes the red light at the very bottom. So the chase was over. He was caught. The angry driver gets out the car with a baseball bat and starts smashing the car. Not cool. That's idolatry. He's worshiping himself. Not worth it. You want to batter someone just because someone got in front of you? Chill out, guys. Relax. Who do you think you are? You think you're Vladimir Putin and someone's done something against you? There's no excuse to be angry. God forbid Pinchas didn't get angry. It's comparable to idolatry. As I said, it's like let me share with you what a Kabbalist does when they're angry. Let me share with you a quick story. It's a story from the book, The Maggid Speaks, from Rabbi Pesach Krohn, which, by the way, if you're looking for inspirational stories, it's one of the best ones, called The Maggid Speaks by Pesach Krohn. And he writes the following story. There was a gemach in Israel. A gemach means, I love Jewish people. They do the most amazing, hospitable things. There's basically an organization which lends out money, but not something like it actually gives out money. It gives out money to people in need. And there was a certain gemach. There was this very sweet guy at the front called Reuven. It's a Friday morning. He's sitting there, and this poor guy in Jerusalem comes. This guy in Jerusalem comes. He was a father who was trying to marry off his daughter, and he comes and says, "I need the last $1,000. Just the last $1,000, please. Then I'll be able to get marriage, and I've already got some co-signers that will everything. I just need that last 1,000." And Reuven said, "We have a policy in our gemach. We have a policy that we can't lend someone for the same cause twice in a week. And you came at the beginning of the week, and now you've come for more. We just can't do that." Now, any normal person, when they're told that, they're like, "Oh, okay." But not our dear Israeli friend who was trying to marry off his daughter. He starts getting angry and starts shouting at Reuven and saying, do you not have a heart? The wedding's next week, and this is the last 1,000, and then we can pay for the wedding. Otherwise, I won't be able to marry. And he starts going, and then he leans over the counter and he smacks Reuven on the face. He gives him a smack. Has any of you ever been accosted with someone's angry? And so how would you have reacted, my friends? How would you have reacted to that? What would you have said? Did you know what Reuven said? Reuven looked in his heart and said, "Wow, Hashem, I know this guy. The fact that this guy's so upset means he really needs it. So of course I need to give it to him." And he went, and with a smile, went and gave him that last $1,000 that he needed. That's the way we're meant to react when someone gets angry. We don't rise to their bait and get angry too and shout back and hit back. God forbid. Anger, as you said, it's like a fire, and you get angry too. You get engulfed in that fire, and then it becomes a huge bonfire. What happens when there's a fire? Run the heck away, or put water on it. Water's love. Water's compassion. As soon as he did it, obviously, the guy calmed down. Now, obviously, every case is different, and you don't have to be a doormat. You're not meant to lose necessarily money. But the point is, when someone gets angry, A, don't get angry with them. B, ask yourself, 1 minute, maybe if they're nice, decent people and they're getting angry, there must be something really upsetting them. Is there anything perhaps I can do? Maybe I wasn't as merciful as I should have been. I was literally preparing for this talk and it came on my Facebook feed. A guy just now in England has just been imprisoned for when he was angry, driving over his daughter. And then just to make sure she died, he reversed the car. Can you imagine? He drove over her once and he was still so angry. He wanted to make sure, and then he reversed and make sure how you kill your daughter, it's anger. And then he had the audacity to then obviously pretend it wasn't him, put her in the car, take her to hospital, try and say, I saved the day. The jury found him guilty of murder. And my point is, if anger can enable someone not just to kill their daughter, to reverse the car and kill one's daughter, I can't even imagine which kind of sickness does that. Know this, when you're angry, you're not rational, my friends. You're not being rational. Don't think you have the power to objectively make healthy decisions when you're angry. God forbid, you have to learn not to make business decisions. You have to learn to sleep on it. Sleep on it. Never react when you're angry. Say, I'll get back to you tomorrow. I'll get back to you tomorrow. You've got this ridiculous phrase people say, never go to bed on an argument. Nonsense. If your partner or your friend is angry, as it says in Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, don't appease someone at their time of anger. Wait for them to calm down. Wait for you to calm down. Then when you're both calm, have a coffee and try and talk it out. It says in Kohelet, chapter 7, verse 9, do not be hasty in your spirit to be angry, for anger rests in the laps of fools. People who are foolish get angry. It says in Babylonian Talmud, Pesachim, page 66b, anyone who becomes angry, if he's wise, you lose your wisdom. If he's a prophet, he loses his prophecy. If any of you are trying to achieve growth in Torah, that Torah is going to be, God forbid, lost at that moment when you're angry. Maimonides writes a bit later on, those who frequently become angry have no quality of life. That's why the Torah instructs you to go far away from anger, far away. The Aruch HaSadik in the book, The Ways of the Righteous, say, anger causes a person to be stubborn. And because of his anger, a person won't make concessions. He won't admit truth. It says in Eruvin, page 63b, there are 3 ways to find out what someone's really like. So guys, if any of you, there's Julia, Cyril, when you're going to be dating to try and find your soulmate, there's 3 ways to work out what someone's really like, says the Talmud. Anyone know what they are? I've said this before quite a few times. Anyone like to put in the comments, what are the 3 ways to find out what someone's like? It says in the Talmud, which means how someone is when they are stressed, how someone is when they're stressed. So right now in the heat, oh my gosh, in London, you're getting to find out what people are really like. When someone is stressed, when you're dating someone, maybe the first couple of dates, they're like on their best behavior and they're super charismatic. My wife was shown the real me because on our first date, I managed to get lost and I was a little bit stressed. And I hopefully, Baruch Hashem, I stayed calm. I said, okay, Hashem, I love your jokes. I'm going to stay calm. Like, when you get lost and, when you're under stress, that's when the real you comes out. So stay cool, stay chilled, because God forbid, when someone gets angry, you see what they're like, and then they start saying horrible things. I've got news for you. If they're saying it then, that's what was in their heart. And it's just now they've got no control. So they have no filter is coming out. Someone who's very beautiful and calm and serene, even when they're stressed, they don't start insulting you. They more likely say, oy vey. They say, Hashem, why are you challenging me? They might say that. They're not going to start cursing you out and insulting you. And if they are, that shows what's really going on in their inner world. And then their outer world has been revealed. So the 3 ways to find out when someone really is when they're stressed, how they use money, how they use when they're money. So money is a great way, is a great litmus test. If people are very tight and stingy with their money, or if they're generous with their money, it's a great way to find. And as Sivan said, how someone handles their drink. So in Hebrew, the word for drink, kos, for anger, ka'as, kaf, ayin, samach, and money, kaf, vov, samach. It's all the same, kaf and samach, all the same letters, because they are hinting at this is what someone's really like. The great Rabbi Strauss Salanta, was taught so much about anger. And one day they found he was a bit quiet. Rabbi Yisrael was a bit quiet. So the visitor said, "Why are you troubled?" And Rabbi Yisrael said that 2 Jews from Kovna had just come to visit and said there were changes about to be made in the local yeshiva. And he says, "Are those changes bad?" Rabbi Yisrael said, "No, but I felt in my heart some anger when I was told that they wanted to change my academy. And I can't believe I felt anger." This tzaddik. So the visitor said, like, "Did you shout at them? Did you display your anger?" He said, "Of course not, of course not." But Rabbi Yisrael was just gutted that there was a little bit of anger he felt in his heart. Meaning the goal is we shouldn't even feel anger. The Ibn Ezra asked the question, Hashem, are we really capable of tackling our emotions? Surely anger is something natural, just like hunger is natural. And the answer is no. The fact that our Torah scholars tell us we have to ban anger, that means we have the power to overcome anger. We have that power. Don't think, hey, that's just me. I'm a fire sign. I'm Aries Leo. What do you expect? That's what I was brought up with in my home. There was always shouting. Doesn't matter. If in your home there was idols, it doesn't mean there needs to be idols in your tent. Abraham was brought up in a house of idols. You know what he did? He smashed them all up. He didn't say, hey, because my dad Terach had idols, let's have idols in my home. He says, no idols. If your families used to be angry, you say, Hashem, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to grow and to change and to move away and to show I can now fix up not just the sin for me, but for my family too. That's the way we need to react, not say, hey, that's all I know, God forbid. There's a beautiful story in the yeshiva of Nevada. There was a time when they had to live in different apartments nearby. And there was this one woman she was a very, very angry woman, very bitter woman. She was a widow. She used to criticize the students. She was to harass them. She would turn off the water and the electricity on Friday afternoons. And it became too much. And many of the students had to move out. Only one student, and we know his name, called Yosef Geffen, said, no, I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere. And the woman was screaming at him and said, you must be crazy. How can you stay in my building? Can't you see everyone else is gone? Why are you still staying? So Yosef, again, imagine if you were that. You know, your landlords were screaming and shouting at you. And those of you in Israel, it happens. People scream and shout. This is how Yosef reacted. Listen to this incredible, incredible insight. He paused for a moment and said softly to the woman, no, I'm staying for you because I realize that you live alone. And I fear that one night, maybe you'll fall, you'll become ill, you'll cry out for help, and no one will hear you. And I understand that you were merely letting out your frustrations and anger about your life, but I feel someone needs to be there for you. You don't have anyone else for that. I'm here for you. All of a sudden, that woman's face changed. She didn't expect to hear that. She was so surprised and so touched. Then she starts straight away, forgive me, really forgive me. It never dawned on me. The reason you were staying was for me. How kind of you. That changed this woman. Slowly, the words got round. She was no longer bitter and angry. The students started moving back into the building. Again, a story you can find from this amazing book called Around the Maggid's Table, from Rabbi Pesach Krohn. So you see, my friends, try and stop the anger by giving even more love back and saying, and putting yourself in those shoes and saying, 1 minute, if they're really angry, they must be so upset. They must be so distressed. They must be in so much pain. What can I do to help relieve that pain? Isn't that a beautiful world if we lived in that world and that's how people reacted? Oh, what else? It says in the Talmud, someone's actually angry is actually likened to a murderer. And you see that. You see stories of murder comes from actual anger. Let's go a bit more Kabbalistically. Here we go. Reb Menachem Twersky, called the Me'or Einayim, the Chernobyl Rebbe, says, based on a Gemara in Brachos 29b. Listen to this. Here we go. Let's start going Kabbalistic. Every night, at the time when the soul ascends, Hashem writes down all the transgressions that a person did that day. Do you know that? Every day when you go to sleep. However, if you become angry on that day, only that sin needs to be recorded. We don't have to even record other sins because every sin is included in anger. Anger leads to all transgressions. Nothing emerges in his hand but his anger. That's why that moment when you become angry, it consumes you like fire it consumes you. And it's hell. So actually, we don't even need to know your other areas because you just like brought out hell for the world. You've created fire for the world. So what else? Let's go deeper. This has been racking my brains. The mystics say the following. Rabbi Nosson writes this. Rabbi Nosson of Breslov. Whenever we get angry, do you know what happens, my friends? We wake up Esau in heaven. We wake up the spiritual nemesis of Satan. And he wakes up and all of a sudden he's like, haha, I have strength today. You've given me strength. And all of a sudden, what's called the clippers, every spiritual mitzvah has surrounding its shells. We strengthen the shells. In other words, we strengthen the Yetzer Hara around the world. When you see sins around the world, they are strengthened as a result of our anger. That's the consequence of anger. That's why it's not something that can be dealt with moderately. It's something that needs to be eroded entirely. Entirely. And it's scary, no? How much of other people's sins are all as a result and as a consequence of anger, which we set up. So, for example, it says in the Gemara in Kiddushin, page 40, Bar Kapora said there's nothing left for the angry person except his anger. What does that mean? Say that again. There's nothing left for the angry person except his anger. That means when someone's an angry person, they go to the next world, they're going to be, it's like being in an Israeli supermarket in the heat. Everyone's screaming and shouting. They're stuck in anger. They're stuck in this hell of anger. God forbid, you're like right now in London, it feels like an oven. You literally feels like you're living in this 40-degree oven. That's what God, but thank God, I'm chilled, I'm good. There's someone who is angry, is stuck in their anger. Obviously, if you're saying, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. Okay, good news, Baruch Hashem, we can do teshuvah. You can do teshuvah. We can do teshuvah quickly. How to do teshuvah from anger? Number one, we say to Hashem, I'm sorry, I got angry. I want to remove this from my heart. You're meant to feel sick about it. You've got to say, I'm going to stop. Critically, you've got to resolve not to do it again. You've got to strategize how you're not going to do it again. You've got to work out what are the triggers that got you angry and try and get rid of that. We can be like Hillel. Hillel, Mesilas Yesharim says, is someone who never got angry. In fact, there was a famous bet that two young yeshiva bochers, that's what they do in those times, they used to have bets. We're going to make Hillel angry. And it was a 400 zuz bet. So imagine, it was like serious money in those days. And they said, okay, and one of them said, Reuven said, I'm gonna make him angry for sure. Even like, everyone's got a tipping point, no? Everyone's got a tipping point. So they made a bet. And he goes, okay. So he went Friday afternoon, as Hillel was washing his hair. The man went past the door of Hillel's house and shouting, where's Hillel? Where's Hillel? Hillel quickly came out the shower, wrapped himself, and said, yeah. He got himself in a towel. My son, what do you want? He goes, I have a question. Of course, ask my son. He said, why are the heads of the Babylonians so round? That was the most stupid question you can come up with. So Hillel says, oh, very good question, very good question. It's because they have skillful midwives. And he went back in the shower. He gets back in the shower. The guy comes out again, Hillel, Hillel. And twice he asked another, each one even more stupid question after another. Hillel kept tightening his robe and his towel and he stayed calm. And finally, after he saw he wasn't going to break Hillel, he says, are you the Hillel who's called the leader of the Jewish people? Hillel says, apparently that's what I'm called. So he cursed him. He says, I hope there's no one else ever like you in this world. So Hillel said, what have I done wrong, my son? He says, because you've cost me 400 zuz. Because of you, I've lost 400 zuz. And Hillel laughed and can you imagine? I need you. And this is the point, everybody. See, Hillel understood that was a gift from Hashem to challenge him not to lose his temper. And if we do that, and next time someone upsets you and infuriates you, we say, this is a direct gift from Hashem to test me, and I'm going to stay calm. Or I think you can go one step better, and you say, but on the other hand, even though it's a test from Hashem, they're really upset. Shame, as we say in South Africa. Shame. What can I do? What can I do to help them? How can I help? That person must be so upset. Maybe I need to give extra compassion. And by the way, and this is critically, if they're like, it's starting to upset you, you're like getting emotionally caught up. And by the way, when it's family, sometimes that doesn't work. You get emotionally caught up. Run away. Run away like a plague. Run away. Just run. Run for your life. If you start imagining that for you to light up anger in your heart is like you're worshiping an idol. Worshiping an idol is something that we've got to give up our life for. Now you start understanding how important it is never, ever, ever to be angry. Never to be angry. So let's start giving you the tips now, how not to get angry. Tip number one, this book, the Ramban. The Ramban says to his son the following. I'm going to read it to you. Here we go. Tisnahei Tomid. And by the way, maybe you can put a link on. There's a song called Shema B'ni. I think Mordechai Ben David sings it. A beautiful tune to this. And you can look it up on YouTube called Shema B'ni. And it goes like this. I'm not going to sing it because my voice is gone. But he says, Tisnai Tomid, my son, always accustom yourself to speak gently to all people. This will protect you from anger. So, step one. Step one is to speak gently. Again, I don't want to, God forbid, say Lashon Hara about people who especially live in the Holy Land in Israel. But I think it's fair to say, don't think you'll argue with me to say, sometimes we hear that people lose their temper there. You can say that, don't you think? And there's a lot of shouting going along. One of the problems is everyone's speaking so loudly. So back to like the Israeli supermarket, you know? Efra nu everyone's like talking in a loud voice already. So even before there's anger, there's loud voice conversations going on. So it's much easier to, when you're angry and then you're spoken to angry, to switch into anger. Whereas if you're speaking softly, so, you know, I try it when I'm in Israel, like speaking softly, and then just everyone ignores you and like, you don't get your way. But my friends, don't make the mistake and say, no, so I'm going to be shout and be rude and be angry, God forbid, because that's an idol. Can't go serving idols. So you still do what the Rambam says. And if you're ignored and don't get your way, you say, Baruch Hashem, this is what Hashem wants. Or maybe you speak in English, that might work. Or you just be really nice and offer them more money. That normally does the trick. Whatever. The point is, you can't say, because I'm not getting my way, I'm going to sin too. The Ramban says, speak quietly and speak softly and speak calmly. And by the way, especially if you're at home with the kids and your kids are upsetting you, there's no excuse to shout. And you can't shout when you're angry. And actually, I'm sure if you look at them in their eyes and go down to their level and just speak with love, softly, in a loving, beautiful way, they'll listen to you. And that's the Ramban's advice at any rate, to speak softly. Advice number one. Lubavitcher Rebbe's advice. The Rebbe says, and he writes in a few letters about advice for anger, never ever, as we said till now, respond out of anger. And he says critically, have patience. Create a gap between response time and your emotional time. So if someone's done something and you're feeling a little bit perhaps close to anger, do not respond. An email comes in, a WhatsApp comes in that upsets you. Do not respond. Social media at times is the weapon of the Yetzer Hara. WhatsApp is so dangerous. People can break people can, destroy people's lives through a quick text back, a quick WhatsApp back, a quick Facebook post. Never WhatsApp, Facebook, tweet when you're angry. Oh my gosh. wait, don't respond. If you've got an important business decision to make and you're feeling angry, someone's harmed you, you wait 24 hours and then you respond out of your brain. You use a logical response, not an emotional response. And therefore, the most simple tactic is even just to count to 10. Just count to 10. If you count to 10 in Hebrew, even better. Echad, shtayim, shalosh, right? Count to 10 with Lashon HaKodesh. Or, say Shema. Say Shema. Say Apostle. Say it to Tehillim. Just say something which just calms you, just centers you. Say the words, Eino Milvado, all there is Hashem. Get into the oneness of Hashem. Get into a place of beauty and oneness, but essentially don't respond. 2, that's the second piece of advice. Third piece of advice from Rav Moshe Feinstein. They asked Rav Moshe Feinstein, what was his secret? He was one of the tzaddikim who stayed so serene and so calm. Do you know what his advice was? His advice was davening. He said it all came from prayer. It all came from prayer. He would pray to Hashem to stay calm. Which, by the way, we're talking about when things were calm, he would pray to stay calm because he knows how dangerous it is for the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara uses it. The mystics, the way they put it, try and use this analogy. When there's anger, we unlock our houses and open our windows because we allow the Yetzer Hara just to get in. Anger means we've just given the Yetzer Haras can get in the house. So we have to do everything we can to batten down the windows, to make sure that it's locked and super locked and the fly can't get in. And the way we do that is daven to Hashem for we should never get angry. It's a famous story once that the young student went and wanted to see what the Chofetz Chaim did privately. Chofetz Chaim was known for always staying calm, and they wanted to see what he's like when he's by himself, when he prays. He used to sometimes daven by himself. So he's a bit of a cheeky boy, this boy, and he hid under the bench. When the Chofetz Chaim went to daven, Chofetz Chaim opened up the ark and he starts crying and says, Hashem, help me never, ever to get angry. God forbid, and I should never get angry. Help take away anger from my heart. It sounds so simple. If you're going to become a great, if you're going to become a mystic, if you're going to become a tzaddik, can't do that getting angry. And thus we need to pray our heart off that we never get angry. As we said, it's like eating chametz on Pesach. It's like having idols. And there are many strategies. The strategy that the Rabbi Volba would say a strategy from a book called Ali Shar, he would say, set aside half an hour a day when you practice responding to everything with patience without becoming angry. He would literally do a half an hour training session every day. He fixed a half an hour a day. And we strive to bear with patience all that we see and hear when things may be upsetting us. So you put a certain time, okay, this is my patient time. This is whatever happens in the next half an hour, I'm just going to respond with a joy and with a smile. And you start doing that for half an hour a day, then you can get to an hour a day, then an hour and a half a day. And that starts training you how to respond with patience. I'm going to now share with you a Kabbalistic way. And this Kabbalistic way is a little bit mad. And it's a story that my dear friend Larry knows. Because I was looking up, I always like to finish with some Kabbalah, and I've got two crazy Kabbalistic conclusions tonight. Kabbalistic conclusion number one is the following. There are, maybe if you can put, James, on the link, if you look up the 72, maybe Larry, you put it on the link because I sent it to you, we'll show everyone the photo. If we can go, Larry, can you get your photo? Essentially, this is what was really cool. I was with Larry a few hours ago, and I was working through what's called the 72 letters of Hashem's name, because I found there's a Kabbalist that says, everyone see that? Larry, just speak a minute so it goes on your thing, so you become the speaker. Let's just say a few words and then hopefully the screen will come to you. Come on, Larry. Yeah. Everyone can see that. So have a look at go back to your screen, Larry, go back to the screen, say something. Where it says the Pei, the Vav, and the Yud. The Pei, the Vav, and the Yud on that letter of Hashem's name. Essentially, there's 72 letters of Hashem's name. It comes from and I was literally just learning it, and I spoke to a Kabbalist in Israel about how I'm meant to teach it to you. And all of a sudden, I've been learning with Larry maybe for 2 years. He just springs that on me. He has the 72 letter of Hashem's name in his house. I don't even know how he has it in his house. He literally puts it in front of my face. I literally nearly fall off my chair. It's like, what is going on? And that's the danger. Not danger, the beauty. You start scanning Hashem's name. It literally comes into your face. And so essentially, James has put that link on. What you should do is you should print it out, have the 72 letter of Hashem, the 72 letter name of Hashem in front of you, which is, by the way, the name that Moshe used to split the Red Sea. It's the name Moshe used to kill the 2 Egyptians. It has power, as I saw today when my dear friend Larry all of a sudden thrust it in front of my eyes. Like, what is going on after 2 years? Because the Kabbalists say the letters of Hashem's name, the Pei, the Vav, and the Yud, just by meditating on them, being one with the Pei, the Vav, and the Yud, is the magic cure for getting rid of anger. How it works, I'm not going to share with you the secret of how it works, but it works. And those letters of Hashem's name do correct. It's actually from, I saw this from also the Bala Sulam. Bala Sulam explains that those 3 letters, the Pei, the Vav, and the Yud, can protect you. Because the letters of Hashem's name, my friends, form reality. As it happened to me when I started looking at them, all of a sudden they come to you. Based on the famous line from King David, Shvisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. He says, set the letters of Hashem's name in front of you. The Yud and then the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. If you can learn to see Hashem's name in front of your eyes, just to scan it, you become one with Hashem. You escape from your ego. You escape from your division from Hashem. You escape from your anger, and you can move into this beautiful, serene peace. And it protects you, and it changes your life and transcends you. And I'm going to show you what Pinchas did to show you that it wasn't that he got angry. Are you ready for this? It's going to blow your mind. David, are you ready for some crazy Torah? Here we go.
Sorry, one quick thing. I can't find Hey Vav Yud. Hey Vav Yud?
No, Hey. Hey and the Vav and the Yud.
Thank you.
Pei for Paro, Pei Vav Yud. The Pei, the Vav, and the Yud. I think it's number 56 of the letters of Hashem's name. I think so. And that's the one you meditate on, and that will calm your anger. Something tangible that we can apply to Hashem. It's deep. I can't explain why. I'm sure your mom knew about the Sivan, but it moves you. You become one with Hashem to an extent. You come out of your ego. You come out of prison. You come out of the trappings of your body, and you move into a higher, transcendent place of oneness. You become one. You become united with the Hashem in you. The real you is in you. The real you is Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am Hashem, your God is what's within you. So it brings you and forms you the source of all reality, and creates a new reality of peace and oneness, my friends. Okay, that's the Pei, the Vav, and Yud. Are you ready for this? This is madness. Here we go. Here we go. Yes, that Pei, the Vav, and the Yud. Pei, Vav, Yud protects you. Literally write it down, and you can put it in front of your bed if you want. And whenever you see it, it just brings you, it just centers you to peace. And it's just mad that Hashem brought it for me for Larry, and we've got to work out what the lesson is. And I think, Larry, the message is that you weren't ready yet to know it. It's very dangerous. If your vessel's not ready and you start meditating with it, it can create harm. The clippers can use it. You have to be ready. That's why something's happened in your life, but now you're ready, because you weren't for the past 2 years. Now you're ready, because meditating on that when you're not a healthy vessel can actually cause damage. You've actually got to be a healthy vessel to be able to handle those letters. Anyway, before I get to what Pinchas did, I just want to tell you, for me, an important 2 other strategies. Number 1, to change the narrative. Change the narrative. Stop thinking that anger is acceptable. Stop thinking that it's okay to be a little bit angry. Stop thinking that everybody gets angry. Stop thinking that that's what I saw from my parents. Look at anger as poison. You don't say, hey, I just want a bit of rat poison. My parents had rat poison, so I want some rat poison as well. You don't say that. You say, get the rat poison away forever. Never, ever. Never an excuse. And also understand that the narrative that we're here to serve Hashem, we're here to be observers. When someone loses their temper, it's actually a test of your compassion to see if you can bring compassion at that point. But the reaction is never anger. It's, God forbid, never anger. And one other final thing is understand the triggers. For example, a couple that used to come to me for relationship classes, their big anger sessions used to be when they got back from work. And it was as simple as I said to them, do me a favor, just eat first. Don't start discussions with each other till you eat. For many people, there's triggers for their anger, and some of them is literally could be hormonal, and sometimes it's just food. They haven't eaten. We're not at our best when we haven't eaten or drunk. That's one of the problems in the heat. There's the heat. Like, learn to work out what are triggering your anger. Is that hangry? Exactly. And, solve the hangry and you won't be angry. Okay, so eat away. And that's why never go into an important business meeting or an important discussion with anyone, especially your loved ones, when you're hungry. Never. Or you're tired, by the way. Some people are, can we say something called sangry? No, slangry maybe, I'm going to be careful. I haven't tried this out, right? So sleep and anger, slangry, right? So some people get slangry and some people get hangry, and we just have to, get rid of those triggers. Here we go. Here's the Zohar. Conclude with some crazy Zohar. This, my friends, is what happened with Pinchas. It's not as you read on the children's table. He got angry and put a spear. Forget about it. This is what happens. Here, that's why I love Kabbalah so much, because this really tells you what happened. It says the Zohar, and this is also found in the Degal Machane Ephraim, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. There was a floating mem. Pinchas saw a floating mem. What does that mean? Here we go. Hi, my friends, if only you knew why the world is as it is. The world's as it is now because there's a floating mem. The mystics explain, when the world isn't as it is, when there's COVID, when there's disasters, when there's disorder, when there's friction, when there's poverty, when there's pain, when there's stress, it's because we're not balancing the spiritual world the way it needs to be balanced. There needs to be a balance, and that balance is called Malchut. Mem resembles Malchut, which is the last of the Sfirot, which was what happens in the Messianic time. Again, Mem for Mashiach, Mem for kingship. Malchut, time of King David. That's why it's all about Tehillim Mem. Malchus is about balance. If the chesed is too much, if there's this unbridled kindness without constraints, that can lead to the imbalance of Malchus. That leads normally to sexual immorality, which is what happens in the story with Pinchas. And conversely, you can have too much gevura, too much discipline, and there's not enough love. And again, the mem isn't floated. So what happens? Pinchas, my friends, is numerical value 208. Which is the same numerical value as Yitzchak, 208. Pinchas is Pei, plus Nun, plus Ches, plus Samach, 208. What does it say in the Torah that Pinchas did? Do you remember what I said he did? What did he take? Do you want to write down? Come on, just put into Facebook, put into Zoom. What did he pick up? In English, we called it a spear. In Hebrew, the verse and the story says a romach, reish, mem, ches. He picked up a romach, a rem, reish, mem, ches. With mem being the letter mem, he centered the mem and put it in the middle between the reish and the ches. What is the numerical value of romach? 248. What is the difference between romach and Pinchas? Pinchas is 208. It's 40. 248 minus 40. In other words, what Pinchas was missing was the mem. He went and got the mem and put it in his name. He put it in his inner world. He took the romach, the numerical of romach is 248, which is the same numerical value as Avraham, which is the same numerical value as 248 positive mitzvot, which is the same number of my email, avihill248@gmail.com. That's why I've got 248, which is the same numerical value as rechem, which means mercy, which means womb. What is 248? It's the magic number. That's why it's my email address. It's the number of love. It's the number of compassion. He didn't take anger. He took love. He brought kindness, but he balanced the kindness. He centered the mem. Says the Baal Shem Tov something crazy. When you're seeing in the outer world the chaos and the confusion, do you know what we do? We blame everyone. We blame those who don't like wokeism. They blame the woke world. Those who don't like the right-wing Trumpian Boris Johnson world, they blame that. Some people who don't like, everyone's blaming the external. Do you know what Pinchas did? He didn't say they're making the mistake. He says they are merely a reflection of I'm not as balanced as I need to be. Pinchas was 208. That was Yitzchak. That was Gevurah. He was very controlled. He ironically did the opposite. He brought more love and kindness into him. He integrated some of Abraham, father of Yitzchak, into him. He brought the mem into him. He balanced the mem, everybody. He brought the love of Abraham and killed them with love. What does that mean? He created an inner balance in himself. He says, I'm actually not being as peaceful as I need to be. And that's why, since Rabbi Shmulevitch, the Rosh Yeshiva of Mir, it says twice, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Why does it keep going back to Aaron? Because Aaron was a man of peace. Aaron is the one that says in Pirkei Avot, he loved peace and pursued peace. So this is what Pinchas did. He saw what was happening. He went into Shul. He went to the ark, closed his eyes, says, Hashem, your mem's out of place. There's a lack of spiritual balance in the world. Sexual immorality is happening because there's not that balance between loving and control and discipline and giving. And I'm going to fix the vessel up in me. I'm going to bring in the mem into me. I'm going to integrate Abraham into me. I'm going to bring the mem from Abraham. So Pinchas becomes Abraham. Had become 248. He took the Romach, he took the 248, and he did some inner spiritual work, and then took that Romach and said, okay, now we're ready to fix it up. They needed to die because they did the sin that it says, Kana'im Pogimbo. The law is when someone doesn't act like that, they did need to die. They disgraced the Jewish people in public, and he should have known better. So it was better for their souls and for the Jewish people that they died. Not that we're allowed to ever take their life into their hands, but he killed them with love. He was so calm. He was chilled. He killed them with love. Romach means love. It means Abraham. He just showed you want balancing. My friends, we're living in a world when we don't know how to say no. We're living in a world when someone asks you a favor, we think, there's no boundaries in this world anymore. There's no sexual boundaries. It's all okay. And we've got to create boundaries. But then when there's boundaries, there's still going to be love and compassion. We need to learn that balance. That's the balance that Pinchas achieved. The mem went back to its place, to the place of center. We need to learn how to be centered. We need to learn how to have that chesed and gevurah balance. That's why, what was the reward of Pinchas? 2 rewards. Number 1, the brisi shalom, the covenant of peace. He did an act of calmness and peace and got rewarded with the Nobel Peace Award. He got the Peace Prize for killing, meaning it wasn't an act of anger. It was an act of calmness. It was an act of creating peace in the world. That's why Hashem's anger was straight away calm, because the mem went to the middle place. And finally, he became Elijah the prophet. He got to a place where he never died because he made such a radical change in his life. He actually, essentially, in that moment, he killed his ego. He transformed and metamorphosized into the world of Abraham. He left his ego behind. He got to a place where he essentially burnt away his ego. He can now exist forever. Pinchas exists forever. He's now Elijah the prophet that comes back in every generation. You might have seen Elijah today because he comes in our lives without us realizing it. He comes to every circumcision. He's there. He's there every Pesach night or Seder night. He sometimes comes and saves you. So in short, to conclude, my friends, when things are going crazy around you, the goal is not that you go crazy too, and God forbid, get angry too. The goal is you go into your inner world. And when you see the world in a mess, you say, Hashem, what can I do in my inner world to fix it? Not the problems with them, the problems with him, with her. My friends, the problem's with you, otherwise they wouldn't be having a problem. If you were perfect, and enough of us were perfect, Mashiach would come, there'd be peace. The men would be there in peace. But the reason why Mashiach's not here is we're not balanced enough. There's still floating mems floating around. We have to create that beautiful balance. That film Finding Nemo, I believe, is all about finding Tiferes, finding that harmony. We need to learn that our inner world is affecting the outer world. We fix the inner world, fix the outer world. That's why it says in Pirkei Avot, if I am not for myself, it will be for me. That's why Hillel comes during the destruction of the temple and says, if I'm here, everyone's here. Imani kan akol kan. He's not being egotistical. He's understanding that the spiritual world, the whole world relies on you, Larry, and you, David, and you, Julia, and you, Cyril, because we're part of Hashem's in us. And when we are balanced and centered, it creates ripple effects around the universe. So I bless you. I bless all of us. We learn to be centered. We learn to be balanced. We learn to balance the men. We learn never, ever, ever, ever to get angry. We daven, like Rav Moshe, like Chofetz Chaim daven, that we should never, ever get angry. I give you all a blessing that for the rest of your lives, Admer ve'esri, you should never, ever get angry. We should listen to this over and over again so we shouldn't get angry. We should do that half an hour work every day, at least half an hour. I'm going to make sure I'm staying mellow and I'm staying calm. And please God, in the merit of us taking the Romach, taking not a spear, but the 248 attributes of love and kindness that Abraham brought to the world, by really incorporating that, that's going to bring a world where the men of Mashiach will come very soon, speedily in our days, and in 2 weeks' time, we won't be sitting on the floor crying during Tisha B'Av. We'll be dancing together at the rebuilding of the new Bet HaMikdash. So thank you, everybody.